down. Oh, we went down to fourth. Whoops, that's my bad. You have to go down to fifth. So you go down to fifth. Maybe down another fifth. Up a fourth. There we go. Then we made it. So basically you're just meandering around in ascending fourths and descending fifths. And that essentially makes a circle progression. Now there's a specific kind of circle progression that we use. So this is called a circle progression. So basically chords float around in descending fifths and ascending fourths until we come back to tonic. All right, so that's the essential element of a circle progression. It's made up of descending fourths and perfect fifths. And you can see in your book right here, 10.2, they've got a really good example. They map out. And you notice it can be descending fourths or perfect fifths, still considered a progression. Because if you constantly have all descending fifths or all ascending fourths, you're going to end up with a really crazy looking bass line that will be out of this world. So that's the key there. Now, if you use progressions built on consecutive ascending fourths and descending fifths, you can get some pretty wild patterns. So this super common circle progression, it basically boils down to this. It's going to go in major, and of course minor is just going to change whether the chords are major or minor. The progression itself is going to stay the same. So it goes 1 to 4, so we're going up in ascending fourths, up to 7, diminish 7. Then from 7 we loop back around. We keep moving past the tonic and we move to 3. And 3 then goes to 6, which goes to 2. So we loop back around and keep moving, all right? Which then goes to 5, which then goes to 1. And guess what is a perfect authentic cadence? Oh, what? Crazy! Ding, ding, ding. And this, with the 2, is a very, very, very common ending, all right? 2, 5, 1. So keep that in mind. This is the golden circle progression. Half of the songs you know are based on it. All right? I think every rock band in the world, their songs are basically that. Let's see. And you can hear it. This pattern is really common because it basically ends up going up a fourth, down a fifth, up a fourth, down a fifth, up a fourth, down a fifth, if you're actually putting it in the bass line. So here we go. So this is 10.3. This is the Jig from the Suite in G major by Handel. And this is a really good example of this chord progression that goes 1, 4, 7, 3, etc., etc. So here's the diatonic full circle deal, all right? So we do so you basically go until you get to G. So one more time, it goes. Sorry, I've sharpened there. So and then we land back on G, right? So that's a full diatonic circle. Up a fourth, down a fifth, up a fourth, down a fifth. Does that make sense? And actually in the jig, it is, let me see if I can, you can see it's in the treble clef right there actually. So it's in the upper part, and then the lower part is just scales that accompany it. Okay, here you can see it's a little bit more obscure in figure 10.4. But it's still there. So you see the bass clef is moving around a little more, right? But we still have this overall progression of 1, 4, 5, then we go 5, 2, 6, what is this? Oh, sorry, looking at backwards. So 1, 4, 5, 2, or 5, 3, right? So that's your circle progression, these two, and these are outside the circle progression, and then we've got a full circle progression right here. So it goes 3, 6, 2, 5, 1, right? So it picks up. And what composers do is they'll pick up at some point in the circle progression a lot of times. Say, okay, I've got this 3 chord. I'm going to take this chunk and use it. I'm just going to take that, click in the circle progression. So any questions about that? The circle progression is a direct drive towards tonic. And again, when you're doing these progressions, it counts as a circle progression, and you're going to see it later. They are, whenever you see an ascending fourth, you're basically just going to think of it as a descending fifth that's switched by an octave, right? So descending fifth, right here, say it's a C to F, right? So this is our descending fifth. Now, if this is dropping too low for the bass to sing, right? What we can do is just take this descending fifth, pop this up F up an octave, right? And then la-di freaking da, this suddenly becomes an ascending fourth. So you need to think of these entities, ascending fourth and descending fifth, as the same thing. In your homework, when you see it, it's going to be written as a descending fifth, but know that you have the choice, because obviously, there's 5 in a row of a descending fifth. That's way too much space for someone to sing. So you can pop it up to an ascending fourth or down to a descending fifth, whichever suits your needs and your purpose. Just know that basically octaves don't count, all right? Okay, so we also have another situation. So let's see. We talked about, and here we get the opposite. Now if you go to page 217, we talk about ascending fifths and descending fourths, all right? And you're always going to see these written as ascending fifths. Now these are just the opposite of descending fifths and ascending fourths. So ascending fifths / descending fourths provide relief from the constant motion towards the tonic. Instead, they move away from the tonic, right? So the most frequent application of this progression is from the tonic to the dominant. So this is a situation where you're going to start on tonic, and then move up to the dominant. So the opposite would be true. So you'd do up a fifth, down a fourth, like that, all right? And, you know, ascending fifths, again, are allowed to occur anywhere in the scale, not just between root and fifth. And these are also very necessary for things like half cadences, which, you know, end on a 5 chord as opposed to a 1 chord. Let's see. Ascending seconds right under ascending fifths. So you'll do 4, 5, 5, 6, 1, 2, something like that. So we've got, right? Right, so those would be considered each of them ascending seconds. So important to know, they're not as abundant as chords related by fifths, but the ascending second progression is often used to prepare a shift from one circle progression to another circle progression, all right? So they do one part of a circle progression, they end it, they're like, oh, I need more. They'll move it up a step and then continue a circle progression. We see this a lot in sequences, right? So you get a sequence that has a circle progression, move it to the next step, right? So everything moves up a step, circle progression. Let's see. So this one thing to consider is that the progression 1, 4, 5, 1 is that 4 is considered a substitute for 2, all right? So instead of, let's see, 1, 2, that would be a traditional circle progression, but we're moving both of them are seen just as often. 1, 4, 5, 1, so common. And you guys even know this because you've analyzed a lot of those. But just know that those are interchangeable. The 4 is considered a substitute for 2, which it's just sort of a shorthand cheater to still call it a circle progression, even though it's technically not circle progression. It still is. And you'll see this with the 7 too down the line. Let's see. So if you look at 10.6, you'll see pretty common. You get an ascending fifth, right? So here, technically, these 2 chords circle progressions, and then you move up, right? A second, and then check it out. Here we get a descending fifth and another descending fifth. So here's another circle that they didn't put in here for some reason. So you can see it's a transition between this circle progression and this circle progression down here, okay? So again, similar to the 4 chord substituting for the 2 chord, the diminished 7th triad, or what they call leading tone harmony, is also can be considered a dominant substitute, since in a dominant 7 chord, right? So if we're in the key of C, right? Our dominant 7 chord, which is just made up of, it's a major chord plus one more note. So it goes, right? Since our 7th chord is basically made up of the top 3 notes minus the tonic. So here it is with tonic. Here it is just missing tonic. It's also considered a substitute for a dominant chord, 5 chord. So you can still also call it a circle progression if you see diminished 7 to 1, all right?